Long before telescopes learned to see planets around other stars, long before equations learned to predict habitable zones, there was only a question: are we alone? It is one of the oldest questions a thinking species can ask, and perhaps the most unsettling, not because the answer is hard to find, but because every possible answer changes who we are. If life exists elsewhere, then life is common, maybe inevitable, a natural consequence of chemistry, given enough time and space. If it does not, then this fragile, thinking biosphere on one small planet becomes unbearably precious. Either way, the question refuses to stay quiet. Tonight, as you lie here listening, Earth is turning gently beneath you. The planet does not announce its motion. It simply moves, carrying oceans, forests, cities, and sleeping minds through the dark at more than 1,000 miles an hour, above the atmosphere, beyond the thin blue veil that keeps air close and vacuum far away. The universe waits in silence. This is where the search begins, not with certainty, but with humility. For most of human history, the sky was a ceiling. Stars were lights embedded in a dome, close enough to be counted, distant enough to be mysterious. Life was something that happened here, on the ground, among familiar animals and plants. The idea that other worlds might exist at all was radical. The idea that those worlds might be alive bordered on heresy. And yet, curiosity persisted. It always does. As our understanding of nature deepened, something unexpected happened. The universe grew larger, but life began to feel less exceptional. We learned that the same elements found in our bodies, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, are forged in stars and scattered across space. The chemistry of life was no longer confined to Earth. It was cosmic. This realization changed the question. It was no longer could life exist elsewhere, but why wouldn't it? Everywhere we look now, we find planets. Not just a few, not rare anomalies, but worlds by the billions. Some are scorched by their stars, others frozen in eternal night. Many are strange beyond imagination. Planets made of gas so hot that metal rains from the sky, worlds locked in perpetual day and night, oceans without shores. But among them are quieter places too, worlds that orbit at just the right distance, where temperatures might allow liquid water to exist. Water, after all, is the first whisper of life we listen for. On Earth, wherever water persists deep beneath ice, within boiling vents, trapped inside rocks, life follows. It adapts. It survives. It flourishes in places that once seemed utterly inhospitable. This has taught us an important lesson. Life is not delicate in the way we once assumed. It is stubborn, creative, relentless. And so, when we look outward, we no longer search only for Earth's twin. We search for possibilities. The search for life beyond Earth is not a single mission or a single discovery. It is a slow, patient accumulation of evidence. A conversation between disciplines, astronomy, chemistry, biology, geology, each offering fragments of a much larger story. No one field can answer the question alone. Together, they form a kind of cosmic listening. Some approaches are intimate. We send robotic explorers to nearby worlds, asking them to taste the soil, sniff the air, listen for faint chemical clues. Others are vast in scale. We scan the sky for patterns in starlight, looking for tiny dips that reveal planets passing in front of their suns. We analyze those faint signals, searching for gases that should not coexist unless something is constantly producing them. Life, after all, leaves fingerprints. But there is another kind of search too, one that listens rather than looks. We tune our instruments to the quiet background of the universe, hoping to hear something unnatural, a rhythm, a repetition, a signal that carries intent. This is perhaps the most emotionally charged part of the search because it confronts us directly with the possibility of intelligence beyond our own, not microbes, not algae beneath alien seas, but minds, civilizations, others who might also be asking the same question. If such a signal were found, it would not arrive with fanfare. It would appear as a subtle anomaly, buried in noise, waiting for someone patient enough to notice. And if we ever confirm it, if we ever know with certainty that we are not alone, it will be one of the quietest revolutions in human history. No explosions, no sudden visitors in the sky, just a shift in perspective so profound that everything before it feels smaller. Yet for now, the universe remains silent. Or perhaps, more accurately, we are still learning how to listen. This silence is not discouraging. It is instructive. Space is vast beyond comprehension. Signals weaken. Civilizations rise and fall. The overlap between someone transmitting and someone listening may be vanishingly brief. The fact that we have not yet heard anything tells us less about the absence of life and more about the scale of the cosmos. And so we continue. We build better instruments. We refine our questions. We challenge our assumptions. We learn to accept uncertainty as part of the process. The search itself becomes meaningful, regardless of outcome, because it forces us to understand life more deeply, starting with our own. In searching for life elsewhere, we are really searching for context, a way to place ourselves within the universe without assuming we are its center. Whether we find bacteria beneath distant ice or civilizations broadcasting across the stars, the discovery will echo back toward Earth, reshaping how we see our planet and each other. For now, the night sky remains unchanged. Stars shine. Planets orbit. Somewhere, chemistry unfolds in silence. And here, on a small, turning world, we keep asking the question that refuses to go away. Are we alone? Before we can understand how life might exist elsewhere, we have to confront a more unsettling truth. By every reasonable expectation, life on Earth should never have happened. The early Earth was not gentle. It was violent, unstable, and hostile to complexity. The young planet was bombarded by asteroids, scorched by volcanic heat, and wrapped in an atmosphere toxic to anything that breathes today. Oceans boiled. Continents were still forming. The sky itself was unfamiliar, tinted by gases that would kill modern organisms in moments. And yet somehow life emerged. Not late, not after the chaos settled, but astonishingly early. Geological evidence suggests that life appeared on Earth almost as soon as conditions allowed liquid water to persist. In cosmic terms, that is not a delay, it is an impulse. As if the moment the universe provided the slightest opportunity, chemistry leaned forward and crossed the threshold into biology. This realization reshaped the search for life beyond Earth in a fundamental way. Life no longer seemed like a rare miracle requiring perfect conditions. It began to look more like a natural process, one that unfolds wherever energy, chemistry, and time overlap. But how did it happen here? We don't know. Not fully. And that uncertainty is part of the story. Somewhere on the early Earth, simple molecules began to organize, carbon bonded with hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. Complex chains formed, membranes enclosed reactions. Information learned how to copy itself imperfectly, allowing change to accumulate. At some point, no one knows exactly when or how the line between non-living chemistry and life dissolved. What matters is not the exact pathway, but the implication. Life does not require calm skies and gentle oceans. It can arise amid chaos. Today, we see this resilience everywhere. Microbes thrive in boiling acid pools. They live beneath kilometers of ice. They endure crushing pressures at the ocean floor, feeding not on sunlight, but on chemical energy seeping from the planet's interior. These organisms were once unimaginable. Now they are central to our understanding of life's potential. They tell us something important. Life adapts to environments. It does not wait for them to be ideal. This realization expanded the boundaries of habitability. The habitable zone around a star, once defined narrowly as the region where liquid water could exist on a planet's surface, became only the beginning. Life might exist underground, beneath ice, within clouds, or inside oceans, sealed away from starlight entirely. Suddenly, many worlds we once dismissed came back into consideration. Icy moons, subsurface oceans, planets with thick atmospheres shielding liquid water below. Even rogue worlds drifting through interstellar space might harbor internal heat enough to sustain life deep within the universe. It turns out, offers far more niches than we expected. But there is another lesson hidden in Earth's early history. Life did not just appear, it survived. For billions of years, it endured mass extinctions, climate catastrophes, and planetary-scale disruptions. Each time, it adapted, diversified, and continued. This persistence matters because it suggests that once life begins, it is difficult to erase completely. That idea reshapes how we interpret silence elsewhere. A lifeless planet might not mean life never began. It might mean it never endured. Or it might be hidden, buried deep, waiting beyond our current ability to detect. When we search for life beyond Earth, we are not just asking whether it exists. We are asking whether it endured long enough to leave traces we can recognize. And that is a far more subtle question. On Earth, for most of its history, life was invisible from space. For billions of years, there were no forests, no oxygen-rich atmosphere, no cities glowing at night, just microbes endlessly multiplying, altering the planet slowly, quietly. If an alien civilization had observed Earth during that vast stretch of time, they might have concluded that it was lifeless. This realization humbles us. It tells us that the universe could be full of life that simply does not announce itself, life that does not build radio transmitters, life that never reshapes its planet dramatically, life content to remain microbial, hidden, and persistent. So when we ask, where is everyone? We must also ask, who are we expecting to see? The search for life is constrained not only by technology, but by imagination. We tend to look for reflections of ourselves, for oxygen, for cities, for intelligence that communicates as we do. But Earth's own history warns us against this bias. For most of time, life here did none of those things. And yet, it mattered. Those early microbes transformed the planet. They filled the atmosphere with oxygen, reshaped oceans, and laid the groundwork for every complex organism that followed. Without them, there would be no plants, no animals, no observers asking questions about the universe. In this sense, life is patient. It does not rush toward intelligence. It does not aim for complexity. It simply persists, explores chemical possibilities, and responds to its environment. Intelligence, when it arises, may be rare, not because life is rare, but because the path from microbe to mind, is long and contingent. This possibility forces us to slow our expectations. The universe may be alive in ways that are quiet, ancient, and profoundly unfamiliar. And so, as we turn our gaze outward, armed with this knowledge, we begin to ask better questions. Not just, is there life? But what kinds of life are possible? And how would we know if we were looking right at it? The next step in the search takes us off our planet entirely toward nearby worlds that may still resemble Earth as it once was. When we imagine the search for life beyond Earth, it's tempting to leap immediately to distant stars and alien suns. But the first places we learned to look were much closer. Close enough, in fact, that we could reach them with machines. Our own solar system, once thought to be a barren collection of inert worlds, slowly revealed itself as something far stranger and far more interesting. Mars came first. For centuries, Mars occupied a special place in the human imagination. Its reddish color, its seasonal changes, its proximity all invited speculation. Early telescopes hinted at surface features that some interpreted as canals, fueling dreams of an ancient civilization. Those ideas eventually faded, replaced by colder, harsher realities. Mars, it seemed, was dry, frozen, and lifeless. And then the evidence began to change. Orbiters revealed channels carved by flowing liquid. Rovers found minerals that could only form in water. Deltas, lake beds, shorelines. Mars, long ago, had rivers, oceans, perhaps. A climate warm enough to sustain them for millions of years. Mars did not just flirt with habitability, it lived there. This realization transformed the planet from a dead world into a crime scene. If Mars was once habitable, what happened? Did life ever gain a foothold? And if it did it adapt as the planet changed, retreating underground as the surface grew hostile? Even today, beneath the cold dust and thin air, Mars may still harbor liquid water. Salty brines could persist below the surface. And where liquid water exists, even briefly, the possibility of life refuses to vanish entirely. But Mars is only the beginning. Beyond it, among the giant planets, orbit moons that challenge everything we thought we knew about where life can exist. Worlds without sunlight at their surfaces. Worlds locked beneath kilometers of ice. Worlds powered not by starlight, but by gravity and chemistry. Europa is one of them. From the outside, Europa looks like a frozen sphere, bright, smooth, and fractured like shattered glass. But beneath that icy shell lies something extraordinary. A global ocean of liquid water, kept warm by tidal forces as the moon is flexed by Jupiter's immense gravity. This ocean may contain more water than all of Earth's oceans combined, and it is not alone. Enceladus, a small moon of Saturn, revealed its secret in the most dramatic way possible by spraying it into space. Jets of water vapor and ice erupt from cracks near its south pole, carrying with them organic molecules and chemical signatures of hydrothermal activity on the ocean floor. In other words, Enceladus appears to have everything life on Earth requires: liquid water, energy, and chemistry. We did not have to dig to find it. The moon offered samples freely, flinging them outward into space, where spacecraft could taste them as they passed by. Then there is Titan. Titan is different. Its surface is cold beyond imagination, far too cold for liquid water. But water is not the only solvent chemistry allows. Titan has lakes and rivers not of water, but of liquid methane and ethane. Its atmosphere is thick, complex, and rich in organic compounds. Chemistry rains from its skies. Titan challenges our assumptions at a fundamental level. It asks whether life must look anything like Earth's at all, whether biology could be built on unfamiliar foundations, operating at temperatures where reactions crawl and time stretches. If life exists there, it may be utterly alien, not just in form, but in function. These nearby worlds have reshaped the search for life by expanding its scope. No longer confined to Earth-like planets with Earth-like conditions, the search now includes environments once dismissed as impossible. Life, it seems, might be more adaptable than we ever imagined. And yet, there is a sobering limitation. So far, we have found no confirmed life beyond Earth, no fossils on Mars, no microbes in plumes, no unmistakable biosignatures in alien atmospheres nearby. Only potential, only promise. This absence does not mean failure. It means restraint. Science advances not by declaring victory prematurely, but by refusing to be fooled. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and when it comes to life beyond Earth, ambiguity is the enemy. A chemical signature can have multiple explanations. A pattern can arise without biology. A molecule that supports life can also be produced without it. Each discovery must be interrogated, challenged, and tested again and again. This caution is not pessimism. It is respect for the magnitude of the question. Finding life elsewhere would not be just another data point. It would be a turning point in the history of human understanding. It would tell us that biology is not a cosmic accident, but a recurring phenomenon. That the universe is not merely a place where life happened once, but a place where it happens. And so, we proceed carefully. Robots, drill, sample, analyze. Missions are planned years, decades in advance. Each experiment is designed to ask narrower, sharper questions. Not, is there life, but could life exist here? And then, what signs would it leave behind? Meanwhile, our gaze continues to drift outward, because as transformative as our solar system has been, it represents only one star among hundreds of billions. And if life can arise here, amid this particular arrangement of worlds, then the real abundance may lie far beyond the reach of our probes. For most of human history, planets were theoretical. We knew they existed, because we could see a few wandering points of light moving against the fixed stars. But those worlds belonged to our solar system alone. Beyond the sun, there were only stars, distant, unreachable, and presumed solitary. That assumption was wrong. And the moment we proved it, the search for life beyond Earth changed forever. The first confirmed detection of a planet orbiting another star did not arrive with grandeur. It came as a subtle, almost disappointing signal, a wobble, barely perceptible in the motion of a distant sun, but hidden in that wobble was a revelation. Planets were not rare. They were common, ubiquitous. As detection methods improved, discoveries multiplied. Astronomers learned to measure tiny dips in starlight as planets passed in front of their stars. They learned to decode gravitational tugs. They learned to listen to stars closely enough to hear the quiet influence of unseen companions. What emerged was not just a catalogue of planets, but a new understanding of the universe. Planets are everywhere. On average, every star in the Milky Way hosts at least one planet. Many host several. Some host systems so densely packed that their worlds orbit closer together than Jupiter's moons. Others stretch outward into vast, cold expanses. And among these worlds are planets that, by temperature and size, could plausibly support liquid water. These discoveries forced us to confront scale. If even a small fraction of stars host potentially habitable planets, then the number of such worlds in our galaxy alone reaches into the billions, and the Milky Way is just one galaxy among trillions. Suddenly, the idea that Earth might be unique began to feel strained. But numbers alone are not enough. A planet's location matters. Its size matters. Its atmosphere matters. Its history matters. A world too small loses its air. A world too large becomes a crushing inferno. A planet may sit in the right orbit, yet still be sterilized by radiation or geological stagnation. Habitability is not a checkbox. It is a balance. Still, the sheer diversity of exoplanets shattered our expectations. We found hot Jupiters skimming their stars, bloated and glowing. We found rocky worlds locked in perpetual daylight and darkness. We found planets orbiting red dwarfs, small, cool stars that burn for trillions of years, offering stability far beyond the sun's lifespan. Some of the most intriguing systems are tightly packed collections of Earth-sized planets, orbiting stars smaller and cooler than our own. In these systems, several planets may exist within the habitable zone simultaneously. If life arises easily, such systems could host multiple living worlds within a single stellar family. This idea is difficult to hold in the mind, not because it is implausible, but because it is so expansive. And yet, even as the number of candidate worlds grew, a sobering reality emerged: distance. The nearest exoplanets are light years away. Even the closest would require tens of thousands of years to reach with current technology. We cannot sample their soil. We cannot drill into their oceans. We cannot send rovers. We must infer. And inference is delicate. We analyze starlight filtered through alien atmospheres. We look for gases that should not coexist unless something actively replenishes them. Oxygen alongside methane. Unstable chemical combinations that hint at metabolism rather than geology. These are called biosignatures, but they are not signatures in the way fingerprints are. They are suggestions, clues, whispers. A planet rich in oxygen might host photosynthesis, or it might simply be the product of non-biological processes we do not yet fully understand. A methane-rich atmosphere could signal life or chemistry unfolding in darkness. Each detection raises possibilities while demanding restraint. This is the tension at the heart of the search. We are closer than ever to finding evidence of life beyond Earth, and yet certainty remains elusive. And then there is the question of time. Planets are not static. They evolve. Atmospheres change. Oceans evaporate or freeze. Life may arise and vanish long before we ever look in the right direction. The universe is ancient, and our observational window is narrow. We may be late to many stories, or early, or precisely on time. The search for life beyond Earth is therefore not just a survey of space, but an exploration of probability. How often does life begin? How often does it endure? How often does it reach complexity, intelligence, technology? We do not know. What we do know is this: the universe has provided more opportunities for life than we ever imagined. And with each new planet discovered, the question shifts subtly from "is life rare?" to "what kind of life should we expect?" The next step in the search moves beyond planets themselves and into the skies that surround them. Because if life exists elsewhere, it may announce itself not through form, but through breath. If we cannot touch alien worlds, we can still listen to how they breathe. Every planet with an atmosphere carries a story written in gas and light. When starlight passes through that thin envelope during a transit, when a planet crosses the face of its star, it is subtly altered. Certain wavelengths are absorbed, others pass through untouched. The result is a spectrum, a coded message that reveals what the atmosphere is made of. This technique is delicate beyond imagination. We are not analyzing a planet directly. We are analyzing a fraction of starlight that has brushed past a world dozens or hundreds of light years away. And yet, from this faint signal, we can infer the presence of water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, and more. In some cases, we can even begin to map temperature, cloud cover, and atmospheric structure. This is where the search for life becomes both thrilling and treacherous, because atmospheres lie, not intentionally, but convincingly. On Earth, our oxygen-rich atmosphere is a biological artifact. Photosynthetic organisms transform the planet over billions of years, flooding the air with a reactive gas that would otherwise disappear. To an outside observer, Earth's atmosphere would scream life. But oxygen can arise without biology. Ultraviolet light can split water molecules, allowing hydrogen to escape into space while oxygen accumulates. Methane can be produced by geology. Carbon dioxide can mask more subtle signals entirely. Every potential biosignature has imposters. This forces scientists to think not in terms of single molecules, but of chemical relationships. Context matters. Ratios matter. Disequilibrium matters. Life tends to push environments away from chemical balance, maintaining unlikely combinations over long periods. We are not looking for proof. We are looking for tension. An atmosphere that should not exist in its observed state without continuous input. Even then, certainty remains just out of reach. The arrival of new observatories has sharpened this search dramatically. For the first time, we can analyze the atmospheres of small, rocky planets, not just massive gas giants. We can probe worlds orbiting cool red stars, where atmospheric signals are easier to detect due to favorable contrasts. Each observation is a step closer and a reminder of how much remains unknown. We are learning that atmospheres are dynamic systems. They respond to stellar flares, volcanic eruptions, ocean chemistry, and planetary magnetic fields. A planet's star plays an outsized role, especially when that star is small, active, and prone to violent outbursts. Some worlds may lose their atmospheres entirely. Others may retain thick shrouds that hide their surfaces from view. A planet that appears lifeless today may have once been vibrant. A planet that appears promising may be in the final stages of atmospheric collapse. Time haunts every observation. And yet, despite these challenges, something profound has happened. We are no longer speculating abstractly about alien atmospheres. We are measuring them. We are turning distant worlds into data points, into places with chemistry, climate, and history. This shift is subtle but revolutionary. It means that the search for life has crossed a threshold. We are no longer limited to philosophical arguments or extrapolations from Earth alone. We are testing hypotheses against reality, however distant and faint that reality may be. Still, even if we were to find an atmosphere that strongly suggests biology, the discovery would be incomplete without understanding scale. Is the life producing these gases microbial or complex? Is it abundant or rare? Is it transient or ancient? Is it confined to niches, or does it shape the entire planet? Atmospheres can tell us that life might be there. They cannot tell us what it feels like to be there. And then there is the question of intelligence. Microbial life may be common. Intelligent, technological civilizations may be vanishingly rare, or they may be common too, but quiet, short-lived, or uninterested in announcing themselves. This brings us to another branch of the search, one that does not study chemistry, but intention. If civilizations exist elsewhere, they may leave traces not in atmospheres, but in signals, patterns that rise above noise, carrying purpose across the void. There is a particular kind of hope that comes with listening. Not the loud, impatient hope that demands answers immediately, but a quieter one, the kind that accepts silence as part of the process, the kind that understands that to listen across the universe is to practice patience on a cosmic scale. This is the hope behind the search for intelligent life. If life elsewhere has developed technology, if it has learned to manipulate energy, to encode information, to transmit intent, then it may have left traces that travel far beyond its home world: radio waves, laser pulses, artificial patterns that do not belong to stars or galaxies, signals that mean something. This idea gave rise to one of the most ambitious scientific efforts ever attempted: the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, often associated with the SETI Institute. Its premise is deceptively simple. Point sensitive instruments at the sky. Listen across a wide range of frequencies. Look for signals that nature is unlikely to produce on its own, but simplicity ends there. The universe is noisy. Stars flare, pulsars beat, galaxies hum. Human technology adds its own interference, cluttering the airwaves with reflections of ourselves. Somewhere within that chaos, a signal, if it exists, would be unimaginably faint. And yet, we listen. Radio telescopes scan the sky in silence, collecting torrents of data. Algorithms sift through patterns, flagging anomalies. Most turn out to be mundane satellites. Radar, cosmic sources we already understand. A few resist easy explanation, lingering just long enough to stir excitement before fading back into mystery. There have been moments, brief ones, signals that appeared once and never again, patterns that seemed structured only to dissolve under scrutiny. Each time, the same discipline applies: curiosity without conclusion, interest without certainty. This restraint is essential, because the implications of success are overwhelming. If we were to detect a confirmed artificial signal from another star system, it would mean that intelligence has arisen independently at least twice in the same universe. It would tell us that minds are not unique to Earth, that thinking, questioning, meaning-making entities are part of the cosmic story. But it would also raise questions with no immediate answers. Who are they? How old are they? Are they still there? Did the signal originate from a living civilization, or from one long gone, an echo drifting through space long after its creators vanished? Distance complicates everything. A signal detected today may have been sent thousands of years ago. Any response we send would take equally long to arrive. Conversation, in the human sense, is impossible. What remains is archaeology at the speed of light, interpreting artifacts without context. And yet, even a single signal would be enough. It would not need to carry instructions or greetings. It would not need to say, "Hello." The mere fact of its existence would answer one of humanity's oldest questions. We would no longer be alone, but the silence persists. Decades of listening have yielded no confirmed messages. This absence has inspired countless explanations, debates, and hypotheses. Perhaps intelligent life is rare. perhaps it is short-lived. Perhaps civilizations destroy themselves before mastering interstellar communication. Perhaps they choose not to transmit. Or perhaps we are listening in the wrong way, at the wrong time, on the wrong frequencies. Or perhaps intelligence does not feel compelled to announce itself at all. After all, Earth has been broadcasting detectable radio signals for barely a century to a blink in cosmic time. Our own technological adolescence may be unusually brief. The overlap between two civilizations capable of communication may be vanishingly small. This reframes the silence. It is not necessarily evidence of emptiness. It may be evidence of vastness, of scales of time and space so large that alignment is rare. Listening, then, becomes an act of humility. We are not summoning voices from the dark. We are waiting, carefully, respectfully, acknowledging that the universe does not owe us an answer on our schedule. And even if we never hear a signal, the act of listening has already changed us. It has forced us to think about ourselves as a technological species, about how we appear from afar, about what it means to leave a detectable footprint in the cosmos. In searching for other minds, we become more aware of our own. Still, intelligence may leave traces beyond intentional communication. Civilizations might alter their environments in detectable ways: megastructures, waste heat, atmospheric pollution. These possibilities expand the search beyond listening into looking for technological fingerprints written across stars and planets. The search grows broader, more imaginative, more careful, because the question is no longer just, is anyone out there? It is also, quietly, what would they look like if they were? At some point in the search for life beyond Earth, curiosity turns inward, not because the universe offers answers, but because it doesn't. The stars remain quiet. The skies show no obvious signs of ancient empires or galaxy-spanning societies. No unmistakable beacons announce intelligence on a cosmic scale. And this silence, this vast, persistent, quiet demands explanation. If the universe is so large, so old, and so rich in planets, then where is everyone? This question has haunted scientists, philosophers, and dreamers alike. It is not a complaint, it is a puzzle, one that forces us to confront uncomfortable possibilities, not just about life elsewhere, but about the nature of intelligence itself. One possibility is simple. Intelligence may be rare. Life might arise easily, but the leap from microbe to mind could be extraordinarily unlikely. On Earth, it took billions of years for intelligence capable of technology to emerge. That path may require a fragile sequence of events: stable climates, mass extinctions at just the right moments, evolutionary accidents layered upon accidents. If this is true, then intelligent civilizations may be scattered sparsely across the cosmos, separated by immense distances and epochs. They may exist, but never overlap in time or space, never close enough to detect one another. Another possibility is darker. Intelligence may carry within it the seeds of its own disappearance. Technological civilizations gain the ability to alter their environments rapidly. They unlock immense energy sources. They change climates, ecosystems, and even themselves. In doing so, they may cross thresholds they do not fully understand, triggering collapses that end their technological phase before it can endure. In this view, intelligence is not a stable endpoint, but a brief transition, a flash between long eras of simplicity. The universe may have hosted countless civilizations already, each rising, discovering, questioning, and vanishing, leaving behind little more than silence and entropy. There is also the possibility of restraint. Perhaps advanced civilizations choose not to broadcast. Perhaps they learn, early on, that announcing their presence is unwise. Or perhaps communication itself becomes unnecessary, replaced by inward exploration, virtual worlds, or forms of existence that leave little external trace. Human expectations may be too loud. We imagine intelligence as expansionist, communicative, eager to connect. But those traits may reflect our own evolutionary history more than any universal tendency. Other minds may not feel compelled to reach outward at all. And then there is the possibility that we are early. The universe is still young in some sense. Many stars, especially smaller, longer-lived ones, will burn for trillions of years. Civilizations may be more likely to arise far in the future, when the cosmic environment is calmer, richer in heavy elements, and more stable. If so, we may be among the first to ask the question. That idea is both thrilling and unsettling. It would mean that the silence we observe is not the echo of absence, but the quiet before emergence. That intelligence is something the universe grows into slowly, cautiously, like a late-blooming thought. Each of these possibilities carries profound implications, not just for astronomy, but for how we understand ourselves. If intelligence is rare, then our responsibility grows. If it is fragile, then survival becomes meaningful beyond Earth alone. If it is early, then our actions may shape what comes after us in ways we cannot yet imagine. The silence forces reflection. It reminds us that detection is not destiny, that the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, and that the universe does not exist to reassure us. Yet, despite the quiet, the search continues, not because we expect easy answers, but because the question itself is transformative. In looking for others, we confront our own impermanence. We learn to think on timescales that dwarf civilizations. We are forced to consider whether intelligence is a cosmic milestone or a fleeting curiosity. And slowly, subtly, the search for life beyond Earth becomes something more than a scientific endeavor. It becomes a mirror. The next step in this journey brings us back to biology, but not as we know it. Because one of the most radical ideas in the search is that life elsewhere may not share our chemistry, our structures, or even our definitions. When we search for life beyond Earth, we carry an invisible assumption with us that life will resemble us. Not necessarily in shape or intelligence, but in fundamentals, in chemistry, in structure, in needs, carbon, water, cells, metabolism, evolution, by familiar rules. These assumptions are not arbitrary. They are based on the only example of life we know, Earth's. But a single example is a fragile foundation on which to build universal expectations. And so, at the edges of astrobiology, a quieter, more unsettling question waits. What if life elsewhere is nothing like life here at all? On Earth, carbon is the backbone of biology because it is exceptionally versatile. It forms stable chains, complex structures, and reacts readily under a wide range of conditions. Water, similarly, is an ideal solvent, able to dissolve compounds, buffer temperature, and support chemistry with remarkable efficiency. But ideal does not mean exclusive. The universe is rich in elements and environments that Earth never explores. Worlds colder than any natural place on our planet. Worlds hotter, denser, more chemically aggressive, places where water cannot remain liquid, but other substances can. If life is, at its core, a system that maintains order, processes energy, and replicates information, then the specific materials involved may vary more than we imagine. Consider silicon. It sits directly beneath carbon on the periodic table, sharing some chemical similarities. Silicon can form chains, though less flexibly than carbon. On Earth, silicon-based life struggles because silicon compounds are often unstable in water and less reactive at moderate temperatures. But on a planet with higher temperatures, different solvents, and unfamiliar pressures, those limitations might fade. Or consider ammonia. At low temperatures, ammonia can act as a solvent, much like water, supporting chemical reactions and dissolving organic compounds. On cold worlds far from their stars, ammonia-based biochemistry might be possible, slow, deliberate, operating on timescales that feel glacial to us. Then there are environments that challenge the very idea of solidity and fluidity. The thick atmospheres of gas giants, the crushing pressures of deep planetary interiors, the plasma-rich magnetospheres of stars. These places stretch our definitions of habitable, yet they are not devoid of structure or energy gradients. Life, in its most abstract form, does not require comfort. It requires opportunity, energy flowing from one state to another, chemistry capable of complexity, stability long enough for patterns to persist. What unsettles many scientists is not that alien life might exist, but that we might already be looking straight at it without recognizing it. Our instruments are designed to detect Earth-like signatures, oxygen, water vapor, carbon-based molecules. But truly alien life may not produce these markers. It may alter its environment in ways that do not register as biological to us at all. We might mistake it for weather, or geology, or noise. This possibility forces humility into the search. It reminds us that absence of familiar signs does not equal absence of life, only absence of familiarity. Even on Earth, life took forms that once seemed impossible. Before microbes were discovered, life was assumed to be visible, complex, and large enough to see. Before extremophiles were found, life was assumed to require gentle conditions. Each discovery expanded the definition not by imagination alone, but by evidence. Alien life may demand a similar expansion, and yet there are limits. Not everything complex is alive. Not every dynamic system qualifies as biology. The challenge is not to abandon definitions entirely, but to refine them carefully, rigorously, without anthropocentric bias. This is why the search for life beyond Earth is as much a philosophical endeavor as a scientific one. It asks us to define life in a universe that does not care how we define it. It asks us to accept that our categories may be provisional. And perhaps most unsettling of all, it asks us to accept that life may exist on scales of time, complexity, or subtlety that never intersect with ours. Life that does not evolve toward intelligence. Life that does not build technology. Life that does not wonder whether it is alone. Life that simply is. As the search continues, this realization broadens our patience. It tempers our expectations. It reminds us that discovery may not arrive as a single dramatic moment, but as a slow accumulation of anomalies, patterns that refuse to be explained away, yet do not fit comfortably into our models. In the next part of the journey, return to Earth not as a reference point, but as a warning, because understanding how life survives, adapts, and sometimes fails here may be the most important clue we have about its fate elsewhere. Earth is not a success story, written in smooth lines. It is a record of survival carved through catastrophe. When we look back through deep time, we find that life on this planet has been erased, nearly completely, more than once. Entire branches of the evolutionary tree vanished. Oceans emptied of familiar forms. Forests burned, froze, regrew, and burned again. If intelligence were watching Earth from afar, across its history, there would have been long stretches where life appeared weak, fragile, or on the verge of extinction. And yet, it persisted. This dual truth, that life is both fragile and stubborn, is one of the most important lessons Earth offers, the search for life beyond itself. Mass extinctions are not rare anomalies. They are part of planetary life. Asteroid impacts, volcanic cataclysms, runaway climate shifts, each has rewritten Earth's biosphere. In some cases, more than 90% of species vanished, but extinction did not end life. It reshaped it. In fact, complexity as we know it may depend on these disruptions. Each collapse cleared ecological space, allowing new forms to emerge. Mammals thrived after dinosaurs fell. Complex ecosystems followed simpler ones. Intelligence itself may be a product of instability rather than equilibrium. This has unsettling implications for life elsewhere. A planet that appears quiet and stable may never push life toward complexity. A planet that is too violent may extinguish it repeatedly before it can adapt. The balance between disruption and continuity may be razor-thin and rare. Earth walked that line by chance. Another lesson lies in time. For most of Earth's history, life remained simple, microbial, invisible from space. Complex, multicellular life appeared relatively late, and technological intelligence later still. The window during which Earth broadcasts detectable signs of advanced civilization is vanishingly small compared to its age. This matters. When we scan the galaxy for signs of life, we may be looking for a fleeting phase, a brief technological adolescence that might last centuries or millennia, followed by collapse, transformation, or withdrawal. Even if intelligent life is common, it may be rarely visible. Earth also teaches us about feedback. Life does not merely adapt to its planet, it changes it. Photosynthesis altered the atmosphere. Plants reshaped continents. Humans are now driving changes on a planetary scale in a matter of centuries. This power is double-edged. The same capacity that allows a species to flourish also allows it to destabilize the conditions that support it on Earth. We are living inside that experiment. We do not yet know its outcome. This realization lends urgency to the search for life beyond Earth, but also caution. If intelligence is inherently destabilizing, then technological civilizations may be self-limiting. Their absence elsewhere may be a warning rather than a comfort. And yet Earth also offers hope. Life recovered from every catastrophe it faced. It found new pathways, new equilibria, new forms. Even now, as the planet changes rapidly, life adapts. Not always in ways that preserve human comfort, but in ways that preserve life itself. This suggests that life's persistence may outlast civilizations. Alien worlds may host biospheres that survive long after their intelligent inhabitants fade. We may never detect the minds, but the life remains. This reframes success. Perhaps the goal is not to find civilizations like ours, but to find living worlds, places where chemistry has crossed into biology and stayed there quietly for billions of years. Worlds that remind us that life is not a climax, but a process. As we carry Earth's lessons outward, they inform how we design our instruments, interpret our data, and temper our expectations. They remind us to search patiently, thoughtfully, and without projection. Because the universe does not owe us familiarity. In the next part of our journey, confront a more intimate question: how the search for life beyond Earth changes how we see ourselves, our planet, and our future. At a certain point, the search for life beyond Earth stops being about elsewhere. It becomes about here. Every telescope aimed at distant stars also casts a quiet light backward toward our own planet. Every question we ask of the universe echoes with a question about ourselves. The farther we look, the more clearly Earth comes into focus, not as a default setting for life, but as a rare outcome of countless contingencies. From space, Earth does not advertise its importance. It is small, pale, wrapped in a thin, delicate atmosphere that clings to it like a breath held just long enough. There are no visible borders, no declarations of ownership, just a living world suspended in darkness. This perspective is not poetic indulgence, it is data. It tells us that habitable planets are not just places where life can exist, but places where life has endured. For billions of years, Earth maintained conditions stable enough, yet dynamic enough, to support an unbroken chain of living chemistry. That continuity may be far rarer than the initial spark of life itself. And so the search beyond Earth sharpens a sobering realization. Even if life is common, living worlds may not be. This shifts how we think about value. If life is abundant, then biology is not sacred because it is unique, but because it is vulnerable. If intelligence is rare, then awareness becomes a fleeting phenomenon, something the universe occasionally achieves and just as occasionally loses. Either way, meaning does not diminish. It concentrates. The act of searching changes us in quieter ways too. It expands our sense of time. Astronomical discoveries stretch human patience beyond instinct. Missions take decades. Signals take years to arrive. Conclusions emerge slowly, cautiously, sometimes after entire careers have passed. In learning to search the cosmos, we learn to slow down. This patience stands in contrast to the pace of modern life on Earth. Our technologies accelerate, our attention fragments, our decisions compress into shorter and shorter windows, and yet the universe responds only to persistence. It yields nothing to urgency. The search for life beyond Earth therefore becomes a discipline, a practice in humility, restraint, and long-term thinking. It also reframes human conflict. From a cosmic perspective, divisions blur, nations disappear, ideologies fade. What remains is a single species on a single world, attempting, often clumsily, to understand its place in an unimaginably large system. This does not erase difference or difficulty, but it does contextualize them. If we are alone, then the responsibility to preserve life rests entirely with us. If we are not alone, then we are part of a larger community of living systems, even if we never meet them. In both cases, the obligation is the same. Care matters. The search also reshapes how we imagine the future. If intelligence elsewhere tends to vanish, we are warned. If it tends to endure quietly, we are invited to rethink what progress means. Expansion may not be the endpoint. Visibility may not be the goal. Survival, continuity, balance, these may be the true measures of success. And perhaps that is why the search has never faded. Despite decades of silence, it offers no easy reassurance. But it offers orientation, a way to measure ourselves against something vast enough to strip away illusion as we continue outward. Beyond reflection and back into exploration, the next phase of the search becomes more deliberate. New missions, new instruments, new questions sharpened by everything we've learned so far. The universe has not answered us yet, but it has taught us how to ask better questions. Every era of discovery is defined not only by its questions, but by the tools it dares to build. The future of the search for life beyond Earth will not arrive as a single breakthrough. It will unfold as a layered effort, incremental, expensive, patient, guided by lessons learned from every quiet disappointment that came before. New telescopes are being designed not just to see farther, but to see more honestly, to separate planetary light from stellar glare, to resolve atmospheric signatures with clarity that once seemed impossible. These instruments will not promise certainty, but they will narrow ambiguity. They will turn whispers into patterns. Some will stare outward for years, tracking the subtle rhythms of distant worlds. Others will focus inward, toward our own solar system, where proximity allows for intimacy, sample return missions, ice-penetrating probes, subsurface explorers designed to taste alien oceans directly. This dual approach reflects a deeper truth. Life may be both common and elusive. It may announce itself clearly on some worlds, while hiding stubbornly on others. Only by combining breadth with depth can we hope to understand its true distribution. The engineering challenges are immense. To land on an icy moon and drill through kilometers of frozen crust requires technologies that push the limits of power, autonomy, and reliability. To return pristine samples from another planet without contamination requires precision bordering on obsession. To interpret alien chemistry without projecting Earth's biases demands new frameworks entirely. And yet, these challenges are not deterrents. They are invitations, because the reward, any confirmed evidence of life beyond Earth, would justify generations of effort, even a fossilized microbe, even a chemical signature that defies non-biological explanation, even a repeating signal that survives every test we throw at it. Each would be enough to rewrite textbooks, philosophies, and futures. There is also a growing recognition that the search cannot belong to one nation, one agency, or one generation. The timescales involved demand continuity beyond politics. Knowledge must be preserved. Data must remain accessible. Curiosity must be institutionalized. In this sense, the search for life becomes a long conversation humanity holds with the universe, one that outlives individuals and ideologies. And perhaps that is the most profound shift of all. We are learning to ask questions whose answers we may never personally hear. This humility does not weaken the endeavor, it strengthens it. It aligns us with the true scale of the cosmos. It reminds us that discovery is not always about closure, but about participation. Even now, as you lie listening, missions are being planned that will launch decades from now. Instruments are being conceptualized that will not be built until today's engineers are gone. The search extends forward, trusting that future minds will continue the work. That trust is itself a form of optimism. Because to search for life beyond Earth is to believe that understanding matters, that the universe is worth knowing, even if it offers no comfort in return. The tools we build will not just detect life elsewhere, they will teach us how to think more clearly, more patiently, more honestly about complexity, about uncertainty, about our place in a system that does not center us. And in doing so, they quietly prepare us for whatever answer may come. There is a temptation to imagine discovery as a moment, a press conference, a headline, a sudden, irreversible shift from uncertainty to knowing. But the discovery of life beyond Earth, if it comes, will almost certainly arrive more quietly than that. It may begin as an anomaly, a signal that refuses to disappear, a spectrum that resists explanation, a chemical imbalance that grows more convincing with each observation, yet never crosses the line into absolute proof. The first reaction will not be celebration, but caution, because once the possibility of life enters the data, it cannot be removed. Every analysis will slow. Every assumption will be questioned. Independent teams will repeat measurements, challenge interpretations, search for overlooked explanations. Years may pass before consensus forms, before the scientific community allows itself to say, carefully, that something living may exist beyond Earth. And when that moment comes, the world may not stop. There will be no sudden silence across cities, no universal pause. Life on Earth will continue, much as it always has. People will wake, work, worry, and sleep. The discovery will unfold gradually, unevenly, absorbed differently by different minds. But beneath that surface normalcy, something will have changed. For the first time in human history, life will no longer be a singular phenomenon. Biology will become cosmic. This shift will not answer all questions. It will create new ones. How is the life simple or complex? Independent or related? Did it arise in the same way life did here, or follow an entirely different path? Is it widespread or isolated, ancient or young? And perhaps most unsettling of all, does it know about us? Even the discovery of microbial life would carry philosophical weight far beyond its simplicity. It would tell us that the universe does not reserve life for special places, that chemistry, given time, tends toward organization, that Earth is not an exception, but an example. This realization would alter how we interpret silence elsewhere. If simple life is common but intelligence rare, then the universe may be biologically rich but mentally quiet, a place filled with living systems that never look up, never ask questions, never wonder. In that case, intelligence becomes precious not because it is powerful, but because it is reflective, and reflection carries responsibility. If life is common, then extinction is not just a local tragedy. It becomes a universal pattern, one that repeats across worlds. And if intelligence is rare, then its loss carries disproportionate weight. A thinking species may be one of the few ways the universe comes to know itself. This idea is not mystical. It is statistical. A universe filled with stars but empty of awareness is different from one where awareness occasionally emerges. Discovery would not give humanity a special status, but it would clarify our role. We would be participants in a rare process. There is also the possibility that discovery brings restraint rather than expansion, that realizing life's cosmic fragility leads not to conquest, but to caution, that the urge to spread outward is tempered by the recognition that living worlds are not empty frontiers, but delicate systems with histories of their own. The search for life, in this sense, becomes a moral education. It teaches us that not everything unknown is meant to be claimed, that some discoveries demand protection rather than exploitation, that curiosity must be balanced with care. And yet, there is joy in the idea too. To know that somewhere beneath an alien sky or ocean, chemistry has learned to persist, that the universe has repeated itself, not exactly, but meaningfully, that life is not a lonely accident, but a recurring verse, even if we never meet, even if we never communicate, even if the distance remains unbridgeable. The knowledge alone would change how we fall asleep at night. We would look at the stars not as cold, indifferent points of light, but as places where something, however small, may be happening, quietly, persistently, alive. And in that awareness, the search would not end. It would deepen. There is another possibility we rarely linger on, not because it is frightening, but because it is quiet. The possibility that the search for life beyond Earth continues indefinitely, refined and expanded across centuries, without ever delivering a definitive answer. No confirmed microbes, no unmistakable biosignatures, no artificial signals rising above the noise. Only better instruments confirming the same ambiguity, again and again. A universe that remains silent not out of indifference, but out of distance, rarity, or timing. At first, this silence feels like failure, a promise unfulfilled, a question left hanging far too long. But over time, silence changes its character. It becomes information. If life were abundant and obvious, we would have found it already. If technological civilizations were common and loud, the sky would hum with their presence. The longer the silence persists, the more it constrains the possibilities. It tells us something about the universe, not definitively, but meaningfully. It suggests that life may be rare, or that intelligence is fragile, or that civilizations do not endure in ways that are easily detectable, or that our methods, however refined, still skim the surface of a reality far deeper than we can probe. Silence forces us to confront uncertainty honestly. It strips away comforting assumptions. It leaves us alone with probabilities, models, and incomplete data. It demands patience without reward, curiosity without closure. This is not how humans are wired. We prefer stories with endings, discoveries with headlines, questions that resolve into answers we can hold. The search for life beyond Earth resists that structure. It unfolds on timescales that dwarf individual lives and even entire civilizations. And yet, there is dignity in continuing. If the universe remains silent, then the act of listening becomes its own statement, a declaration that understanding matters even when certainty does not arrive. That curiosity is not transactional. Silence also sharpens the meaning of what we already have. If Earth is the only living world we ever confirm, then life here becomes unimaginably significant, not because it is chosen, but because it is alone. A singular thread of complexity in a vast cosmic fabric, otherwise empty of biology, that does not make the universe bleak. It makes life luminous. It means that every ecosystem, every species, every fragile interaction on this planet carries weight far beyond its local context. It means that extinction is not just loss, it is erasure. Silence would place responsibility squarely on us to preserve life, to understand it, to avoid mistaking abundance for permanence, to recognize that intelligence may not be a universal phase, but a brief anomaly, one that must choose whether it endures. And yet, even in silence, the search continues to give. It refines our science. It deepens our humility. It expands our sense of scale. It teaches us how to ask questions that matter even when answers remain elusive. It reminds us that meaning is not granted by the universe. It is constructed by those who look into it and care. Perhaps this is the quiet lesson of the search, that whether or not we find life elsewhere, the act of looking transforms us. It pulls us out of ourselves. It forces us to imagine beyond survival, beyond borders, beyond immediate concerns. It teaches us to live with open questions, and maybe that is enough. Still, the search does not end here. Silence does not stop curiosity. It redirects it toward deeper listening, broader thinking, and more careful stewardship of the one living world we know. Step back far enough, and the search for life beyond Earth begins to look less like a hunt and more like a pattern study. From this distance, stars are not suns, but nodes. Galaxies are not islands, but threads. Matter traces vast filaments across space, woven by gravity into a structure so large that individual planets vanish entirely against this scale. Even civilizations blur into insignificance. And yet, life exists. This is the paradox that sits at the heart of the search. Life is microscopic and cosmic at the same time. It occupies negligible space, yet it may represent one of the most complex arrangements of matter the universe ever produces. Perhaps life is not an exception. Perhaps it is a phase. In this view, the universe is not divided cleanly into lifeless and living, but instead moves through long eras where conditions allow complexity to briefly bloom. Chemistry becomes biology. Biology explores possibility. Occasionally, biology becomes aware. Then conditions shift. Stars age. Orbits change. Resources deplete. Entropy presses in. The phase ends, not dramatically, but gradually. Life simplifies, retreats, or vanishes, leaving behind only altered chemistry and quiet planets. If this is true, then the universe may have hosted life many times before us and may host it many times after, not simultaneously, not visibly, but sequentially, scattered across deep time like sparks struck and extinguished. This idea reframes loneliness. We may be alone now, but not alone ever, and that distinction matters. It suggests that the search for life is not about finding neighbors, but about understanding a process, about learning whether life is a rare chemical curiosity or a recurring outcome of cosmic evolution. Seen this way, intelligence becomes even more fragile. Awareness may arise only near the peak of this phase, when complexity, stability, and time overlap just long enough, too early, and environments are violent, too late, and energy gradients fade. Consciousness may be confined to narrow windows that almost never align. We may exist in one such window. This does not make us central. It makes us temporary. But temporary things can still matter. In fact, their transience may be exactly what gives them meaning. If intelligence is a fleeting cosmic phase, then the universe depends on rare moments to be observed, understood, and reflected upon. Stars do not wonder what they are. Galaxies do not ask how they formed. Only living systems do that briefly, imperfectly, but genuinely, in that sense. The search for life beyond Earth is also a search for continuity, for reassurance that awareness is not a one-time accident, for evidence that the universe repeatedly generates ways of knowing itself. And if such evidence never arrives, the implication sharpens rather than dulls. It would mean that awareness is exceptionally rare and therefore exceptionally valuable. Either outcome carries weight. The search does not tell us what to believe. It tells us what to consider. It invites us to think in terms of processes rather than destinations, phases rather than permanence. Life may not be the point of the universe, but it may be one of the ways the universe experiments with complexity. As we drift through these thoughts, the urgency of discovery softens. The need for confirmation gives way to something quieter, a sense of participation. We are not spectators waiting for a signal. We are part of the phenomenon we are trying to understand. Living matter, asking whether living matter exists elsewhere. The search continues, not because it promises answers soon, but because it aligns us with something larger than ourselves. Eventually, every vast idea has to fit inside a human mind, not all at once, not cleanly, but gently, in fragments absorbed between ordinary moments. The search for life beyond Earth does not live only in observatories and research papers. It lives in quiet nights, in brief pauses, in the soft unease that settles in when you look up at the stars and realize how much space there is and how little noise. Most people will never analyze an exoplanet's atmosphere or listen to raw radio data from deep space. Yet the question still finds them. It appears uninvited, often late at night, when the world slows enough to make room for it. Is anyone else out there? The power of the question lies not in its urgency, but in its patience. It does not demand an answer right now. It waits, it lingers, it becomes part of the background of thought, like the hum of the universe itself. For some, the idea of cosmic loneliness is unsettling. The thought that Earth might be the only place where matter learned to care, to remember, to hope. For others, it is grounding, a reminder that meaning is not outsourced, that it must be built here, among fragile lives sharing one small world. Both reactions are honest. What the search ultimately offers is not certainty, but orientation. It gives us a way to situate our brief lives within a much larger story, one that began long before us and will continue long after. From that perspective, individual anxieties soften, not because they disappear, but because they are contextualized. Success and failure blur. Urgency relaxes. The pressure to matter in permanent ways gives way to something more attainable, to matter now, to other living things, to future generations, to the moment you are in. The universe does not ask us to solve it. It does not require that we understand its full scope or final meaning. It simply exists vast, indifferent, and astonishingly fertile in possibility. The search for life beyond Earth mirrors this attitude. It proceeds without guarantees, without deadlines, without promises. It continues because curiosity is a stable trait, one that persists even when answers are slow, and that persistence is deeply human. You do not have to know whether life exists elsewhere for the search to matter. You only have to care that it might. That possibility alone reshapes how you hold the night, how you think about silence, how you understand your place in a universe that is large enough to ignore you and yet produced you anyway. As the stars move slowly overhead, as the planet turns, as cities dim and thoughts soften, the question remains, not pressing, not urgent, but present, somewhere. Chemistry may be repeating itself. Somewhere, life may be beginning. Somewhere, awareness may be flickering on for the first time, or maybe not. And still, here you are, alive, thinking, listening. As the search stretches onward, something subtle happens to our sense of time, not clock time. Not schedules or deadlines, but a deeper rhythm, the tempo at which we expect meaning to arrive. Astronomy teaches patience by necessity. Light itself takes years to travel. Signals drift. Orbits repeat slowly. Change unfolds across spans so long they resist intuition. To think about life beyond Earth is to accept that most answers, if they exist at all, are not meant for urgency. This acceptance changes how the mind rests. When we stop demanding immediacy from the universe, we begin to notice its steadiness. Stars rise and set. Galaxies turn. Space expands without concern for observation. The cosmos does not rush, and yet it accomplishes everything it ever will. Life, if it arises elsewhere, follows the same rhythm. It does not hurry toward intelligence. It does not optimize for visibility. It unfolds at the pace allowed by chemistry, energy, and chance. This realization can be strangely comforting. It suggests that meaning does not depend on speed, that progress does not require constant motion, that stillness is not stagnation, but part of a larger flow. Here on Earth, we often feel pressed by time, by the sense that we must accomplish, resolve, become. The search for life beyond Earth dissolves some of that pressure. It reminds us that existence itself is already an improbable achievement, that simply persisting is participation in something ancient and vast. The universe has waited billions of years to ask questions about itself, and it is in no hurry to answer. As this perspective settles in, thoughts loosen. The mind no longer strains outward, hunting for conclusions. Instead, it drifts like a probe coasting through interstellar space. Instruments still active, but expectations softened. Maybe life is common. Maybe it is rare. Maybe it is everywhere, or almost nowhere. Each possibility leads back to the same place. Here, now. Breathing on a small planet that learned how to host awareness in this moment. The search does not need to advance. It does not need to discover. It can simply exist quietly, patiently, like the background radiation of curiosity that has followed humanity since the first nights under open skies. The stars do not demand interpretation. They shine whether we understand them or not. Life elsewhere does not need our belief to exist, and silence does not invalidate wonder. As you rest with these thoughts, notice how expansive ideas begin to lose their weight. They stretch out thinly until they no longer press inward. Vastness becomes spaciousness. Uncertainty becomes calm. The universe is large enough to hold unanswered questions without tension. So are you. There is a version of curiosity that is restless. It pushes. It demands. It wants answers now. Explanations neatly wrapped. Mysteries resolved before discomfort can set in. This kind of curiosity has driven much of human progress, but it is not the only kind. The search for life beyond Earth has gradually taught us another mode, a quieter curiosity, one that wonders without insisting, one that listens without expectation. This is the curiosity that can sit with an unanswered question for decades, even centuries, and remain open rather than frustrated. It understands that some mysteries are not puzzles to be solved, but landscapes to be explored slowly. Life elsewhere may be one of those landscapes. As we reach this part of the journey, the search stops feeling like an outward expedition and starts to resemble an internal state, a way of holding the universe in the mind without trying to compress it into certainty. This is not resignation, it is maturity. In this state, the idea of alien life no longer feels threatening or urgent. It becomes simply one more expression of possibility, no more destabilizing than the existence of distant galaxies we will never visit. Whether life exists elsewhere or not, the universe remains vast. Time remains deep. Our place within it remains both small and miraculous, and that is enough. The question no longer needs resolution to be meaningful. Its value lies in how it changes the way we look, think, and feel. It softens the edges of identity. It loosens the grip of ego. It reminds us that awareness is something that happens within the universe, not apart from it. In this light, even silence becomes gentle. A quiet sky is not empty. It is simply not speaking in ways we recognize yet, or perhaps not speaking at all, and that, too, is a valid form of presence. The universe does not owe us conversation. It has already given us something extraordinary, the capacity to ask. As this realization settles, thoughts slow further. The mind stops jumping ahead. The search recedes into the background, not gone, but integrated, like a distant star that remains visible even as attention drifts elsewhere. And in that drifting, rest becomes possible. The search for life beyond Earth has always been about more than discovery. It has been about perspective, about learning to inhabit uncertainty without fear, about finding peace not despite unanswered questions, but alongside them, as you breathe, as the night deepens. The universe continues doing what it has always done. Stars burn, space expands. Possibility remains open. Nothing is required of you in this moment. Not understanding, not conclusion, not belief, only presence. As the search stretches across generations, it begins to resemble the night itself, not the dramatic night of storms or sudden revelations, but the long, steady night that simply is, a darkness that does not threaten but holds. A space where nothing demands attention, yet everything remains possible. This is the space between questions and answers. For centuries, humans have lived in this interval. We have pointed tools upward, refined theories, revised expectations, and learned slowly that the universe does not unfold on human timelines. Each improvement in technology reveals more detail, but also more complexity. Each answer uncovers deeper uncertainty. This pattern is not a flaw in the search. It is the nature of it. The universe is not built to be consumed quickly. It is built to be inhabited mentally, imaginatively, patiently, and the search for life beyond Earth may be the clearest expression of that truth. Because here, more than anywhere else, the goal is not conquest or control, it is understanding, and understanding grows best in quiet conditions. In this long night, hypotheses drift like constellations, connected not because they are proven, but because they help us navigate. Some will fade, some will be redrawn. A few may endure long enough to become something solid. Most will simply guide us for a while, and that is okay. There is something deeply human in continuing to look, even when the sky does not respond, in refining questions, even when answers remain distant, in building instruments not for ourselves alone, but for those who come after. The search becomes an inheritance. Each generation adds a layer, new data, new perspectives, new patience, and passes it forward, not as a finished story, but as an ongoing one, a story that may never conclude, yet still matters because it is carried in this way. The search for life beyond Earth mirrors life itself. No final clarity, no permanent resolution, just continuity, adaptation, and meaning assembled moment by moment. And as this thought settles, urgency continues to dissolve. There is no race to the answer, no finish line approaching, no need to stay alert. The universe is not going anywhere. Stars that shine tonight will shine tomorrow. Planets will continue their orbits. Somewhere, chemistry will keep unfolding patiently, silently, whether or not we are watching. You are allowed to rest inside that continuity. You do not need to hold the entire universe in mind. You do not need to resolve its mysteries. You are already participating simply by being aware, by having wondered at all. As the night deepens, the search softens into background radiation, a gentle hum of curiosity that no longer demands attention, only acknowledgement. It will still be there tomorrow, and the next day, and long after this moment fades. For now, it is enough to let the question drift unanswered, unpressured like a star sliding slowly across the dark. There comes a moment in every long search when the mind stops leaning forward, not because interest has faded, but because it no longer needs to strain. The search for life beyond Earth reaches that moment not at the edge of discovery, but at the edge of acceptance. Acceptance that some questions are companions rather than problems, that they walk beside us through life, instead of waiting at the end of a path. At this point, curiosity changes shape. It becomes softer, more spacious, less insistent. The universe does not feel like a puzzle demanding solution, but like a presence, vast, quiet, and complete in its own way. Life elsewhere may exist or not exist. The stars do not hurry to clarify. And strangely, that feels fine, because the value of the search was never only in the answer. It was in the way the question stretched us. It pulled human thought outward beyond survival and immediacy. It taught us to imagine scales of distance and time that dwarf instinct. It asked us to hold wonder without fear and uncertainty without collapse. These are not small achievements. As curiosity rests, awareness shifts inward again to breathing, to stillness, to the simple fact of being alive on a planet that can support thought at all. This alone is extraordinary. This alone is enough. The cosmos does not need us to decode it tonight. Stars continue burning without instruction. Galaxies turn, whether observed or not. If life exists elsewhere, it does so quietly, without announcement. If it does not, the universe remains vast and beautiful all the same. In this state, the search becomes background music present, but no longer demanding focus, a gentle reminder that existence is larger than any one mind, yet somehow includes it. You are not late. You are not missing anything. You are exactly where you are meant to be. The night holds this truth easily. Thoughts begin to slow further now, not stopping, just spacing out, like stars growing farther apart as the sky deepens. Connections loosen. Ideas drift without needing to land. This is where rest begins. Not the absence of thought, but the absence of pressure. The search for life beyond Earth does not end here. It never really ends. But it does pause. It steps back. It allows itself to be carried by time rather than chased by urgency. Tomorrow, curiosity will still exist. The question will still be there, waiting gently. But for now, it is allowed to sleep. At this point in the journey, the question no longer stands in front of you. It floats. The search for life beyond Earth has moved from the foreground of thought to its edges. Like a constellation you no longer stare at directly, but still sense is there. You don't need to trace its shape anymore. You know it exists, and that is enough. This is what happens when curiosity stops demanding resolution. It becomes atmosphere. For a long time, humans treated unanswered questions as unfinished business, loose ends that had to be tied off to feel complete. But some questions are not meant to close. They are meant to remain open, creating space rather than tension. The universe seems to favor this kind of openness. It does not rush to explain itself. It unfolds slowly, layer by layer, revealing just enough to keep wonder alive without ever exhausting it. Even its most profound discoveries, stars, galaxies, expansion only lead to deeper mystery. Life beyond Earth fits naturally into this pattern. Whether it exists elsewhere or not, the question has already done its work. It has expanded perspective. It has softened certainty. It has reminded us that existence is larger than explanation. And now, gently, it recedes. In this quiet drift, the mind begins to release its grip. Thoughts stretch out, become less defined, more impressionistic. Images replace arguments. Feelings replace frameworks. The universe is no longer something to be understood, but something to move through, like floating in deep water. You don't need to know how deep it goes. You don't need to see the bottom. You only need to trust that it holds you. The stars above are no longer questions. They are simply light, ancient, distant, steady. Each one burns without regard for being seen. And yet here their light is, arriving softly at your awareness after traveling unimaginable distances. That alone is astonishing. Somewhere out there, perhaps life is unfolding under alien skies. Or perhaps the universe is quiet, except for this one small thinking planet. Both possibilities now feel equally gentle. Neither presses for belief, neither threatens meaning. Meaning has settled closer to home, in breathing, in stillness, in the simple fact of being present while the universe continues. This is not giving up on the search. It is allowing it to rest, trusting that discovery, if it ever comes, will arrive in its own time, without force. And until then, there is no penalty for drifting. As the night deepens further, the boundary between thought and silence softens. Ideas slow, words thin out. The universe becomes less something you think about and more something you are inside. The search fades into the background hum of existence, still there, still open, but no longer asking anything of you. There is a subtle shift that happens just before sleep. Thoughts don't disappear. They simply stop insisting on being followed. Ideas loosen their edges. Questions no longer line up, demanding attention. They drift past, like distant lights seen through half-closed eyes. The search for life beyond Earth reaches that same state here. For so long, the question carried weight. It pulled the mind outward, across distances measured in light years, and time measured in billions of years. It asked you to imagine other worlds, other chemistries, other chances at awareness flickering on and off across the dark. Now, that effort gently releases. Not because the question is solved, but because it no longer needs to be held. The universe does not lean toward us, waiting for interpretation. It does not pause until we understand it. It moves forward at its own pace, steady and unconcerned. Stars burn. Space expands. Possibility remains open, regardless of attention. And that realization is deeply restful. You don't need to carry the universe tonight. You don't need to watch the sky for answers. You don't need to decide what it all means. Meaning, for now, can be small. It can be the feeling of air moving in and out of your lungs, the weight of your body, supported by something solid, the quiet knowledge that you are part of a much larger flow, even when you are not thinking about it. If life exists elsewhere, it exists without urgency. If it does not, the stars still shine. Either way, nothing is required of you in this moment. The search has done what it needed to do. It expanded awareness. It softened certainty. It opened space inside the mind. And now, like a telescope closing its lens for the night, it rests. The sky does not vanish when we stop looking. It remains patient, vast, and unconcerned with observation. And so do the questions. They will be there tomorrow, and the day after, and long after this night passes. They are not lost. They are simply waiting quietly, the way stars wait behind daylight. For now, you are allowed to step out of the role of observer. You are allowed to simply exist. As this thought settles, the last traces of effort begin to dissolve. The search for life beyond Earth becomes no more demanding than the slow turning of the planet beneath you. Something happening whether or not you pay attention. The universe no longer feels like something to understand. It feels like something to be carried by. There is nothing left to solve right now. That realization arrives gently, like the last light leaving the sky. Not sudden, not dramatic. Just a gradual dimming, until effort becomes unnecessary and attention softens on its own. The search for life beyond Earth has traveled a long arc from urgency to wonder, from wonder to patience, from patience to rest. And here, at this point in the journey, even curiosity learns how to lie down. The question still exists. It always will. But it no longer needs to be held in focus. It can sit somewhere behind thought, like a distant star you trust is still there even when clouds pass in front of it. This is not forgetting, it is trusting. Trusting that the universe does not require constant observation to remain meaningful. Trusting that unanswered questions do not diminish the value of the moment you are in. Trusting that awareness itself, this quiet, present awareness, is already enough. Out in the vastness, stars continue their slow work. Worlds orbit, chemistry unfolds. Somewhere, perhaps, life is beginning its first uncertain steps. Or perhaps the universe is resting between such moments. Either way, nothing presses inward now. The mind no longer needs to reach across light years. It no longer needs to imagine other skies, other oceans, other minds. Those possibilities can remain exactly where they are, open, unresolved, harmless. Here, where you are, the night is simple. Breathing becomes the most important rhythm. Stillness becomes the most accurate description. The body settles into gravity without resistance. The universe does not feel far away anymore. It feels ambient, like a presence that does not speak, but does not need to. If the search for life beyond Earth taught anything essential, it is this. Existence does not have to announce itself loudly to be real. Most of what matters happens quietly, over long stretches of time, without witnesses, and so does rest. As thoughts thin out, they lose their edges. Words dissolve into impressions. Impressions soften into feeling. Feeling fades into something even quieter, an awareness without direction, nothing to hold, nothing to chase, nothing to decide, just the steady continuation of the night. By now, even the idea of a journey feels distant. There is no sense of moving forward anymore, no sense of approaching something important. The search for life beyond Earth has thinned to its quietest form, not a question, not even a curiosity, but a spacious silence where curiosity once lived. This is not emptiness, it is room. Room for the mind to stop organizing the universe. Room for thoughts to stop forming conclusions. Room for awareness to exist without direction. The stars, which once felt so full of possibility, now feel simply present. They are no longer invitations or puzzles. They are points of light, doing what they have always done, indifferent to meaning, yet somehow generous with it. You do not need to imagine distant worlds anymore. You do not need to wonder who might be watching from another sky. You do not need to place yourself in the cosmic story. The story continues without effort. The universe does not require interpretation to function. It does not pause until it is understood. It carries on through silence, through darkness, through stretches of time so vast they dissolve urgency completely. And that same permission now extends to you. You are allowed to stop holding the question, allowed to stop reaching outward, allowed to stop narrating the experience. Awareness becomes softer when it is no longer tasked with understanding. It settles into something closer to sensation, warmth, weight, breath. The body knows how to rest, even when the mind steps aside. In this stillness, the search for life beyond Earth no longer feels separate from life here. It all blends into a single continuity, existence unfolding at different scales, none more demanding than another. Somewhere, chemistry may be arranging itself into something new. Somewhere, stars may be ending their long burn. Somewhere, awareness may be flickering on or off. But none of that requires your attention right now. Right now, the night is complete, just as it is. The silence is not waiting for an answer. It is not holding its breath. It is simply holding. And being held is enough. As this realization settles, the last traces of mental effort loosen. There is no need to stay awake for what comes next. No need to follow another thought to its end. The universe is stable without supervision. So are you. There is very little left to say now, not because the search for life beyond Earth has ended, but because language itself begins to feel unnecessary. Words were useful when the mind needed structure, when curiosity needed shape, when wonder needed direction. But here, at the edge of rest, even structure softens. The universe no longer feels vast or small. It no longer feels full or empty. It simply is. The search has become something quieter than thought, a background presence, like gravity always there, never demanding attention. Whether life exists elsewhere no longer feels like a problem to solve, but a truth that will unfold or not unfold on its own terms. And that is fine. You don't need to wait for an answer. You don't need to imagine the future of discovery. You don't need to hold the universe together with understanding. The night does that for you. Breathing continues without instruction. The body settles deeper into stillness. Thoughts pass more slowly now, leaving wider gaps between them. In those gaps, there is nothing missing. If life exists beyond Earth, it is patient. If it does not, the universe is still complete. Either way, this moment remains unchanged. Quiet, steady. Enough. The stars that once sparked questions now feel distant, almost abstract, not gone, just no longer calling. They shine whether or not they are noticed. And that quiet independence allows you to let go completely. There is no urgency left in the search, no tension, no need to stay alert. Only a gentle awareness, slowly dimming, like lights in a city as night deepens. The universe does not close when you rest. It continues effortlessly. You are allowed to do the same. Now even the idea of a search feels far away, not finished, not abandoned. Just unnecessary in this moment. The universe is no longer something to explore or interpret. It has become a background presence, steady, indifferent, and strangely comforting. Like a vast ocean you don't need to cross, only float upon. The question of life beyond Earth still exists somewhere, of course, it always will. But it no longer rises into awareness demanding attention. It rests where unanswered questions belong, quietly, patiently, without pressure. Nothing needs to be resolved tonight. Stars continue their slow work, whether anyone is watching. Planets turn. Space expands. Somewhere, chemistry unfolds. Somewhere else, nothing happens at all. Both are fine. The mind has done enough. Thoughts now arrive less frequently, and when they do, they don't stay long. They drift in, drift out, leaving no trace behind. The space between them grows wider, softer, more forgiving. In that space, there is rest. Not sleep yet, just the gentle surrender of effort, the sense that you are no longer responsible for holding ideas, following narratives, or keeping track of meaning. Meaning takes care of itself. The universe does not collapse when attention fades. It does not require observation to continue, and neither do you. Breathing is slow. The body is heavy. Awareness is light. There is nothing left to understand, nothing left to anticipate, nothing left to imagine. The search has become indistinguishable from silence. And silence, it turns out, is not empty. It is full of permission. Permission to stop, permission to rest, permission to let go. As this settles, even the idea of elsewhere, of distant stars, alien worlds, unknown life, loses its sharpness. Not erased, just softened. Like memories at the edge of sleep, still present but no longer vivid. The universe fades gently into the background of awareness, where it belongs at night. There is a certain point where thinking no longer feels useful, not wrong, not tiring, just unnecessary. The search for life beyond Earth has now dissolved into something so quiet that it barely registers as a thought at all. It has become a feeling distant, abstract, unimportant in the best possible way. The universe no longer feels vast. It feels far away, like a dream you don't need to remember. At this edge of sleep, ideas don't connect anymore. They don't form arguments or stories. They appear briefly, softly, and then fade without explanation. The mind no longer follows them. It lets them pass. This is where rest begins to take over on its own. Breathing slows without instruction. Muscles loosen without effort. Awareness sinks downward, away from words, away from images. You don't need to hold on to the search now. You don't need to wonder. You don't need to imagine distant worlds or distant lives. The universe can take care of itself for a while. Stars will continue burning whether you are awake or not. Space will continue expanding. Somewhere, maybe, life will continue unfolding, or maybe not. None of that requires your attention. Right now, the only thing that matters is this gentle letting go, the feeling of being supported by something solid while everything else drifts away. Thoughts grow quieter. Gaps grow longer. Silence grows warmer. The search for life beyond Earth has completed its work for tonight. It asked its questions, widened perspective, softened certainty, and now it steps aside. There is nothing left to do, no conclusion to reach, no answer to wait for, no reason to stay awake. The night is steady, the universe is patient, and you are allowed to rest inside that patience. There is very little left to hold now. Thoughts appear, but they don't finish themselves. Images surface, but they don't stay long enough to mean anything. The mind has stopped trying to make sense of the universe, and the universe has stopped asking. This is the place just before sleep, claims everything. The search for life beyond Earth is no longer a question, no longer a curiosity, no longer even an idea. It has thinned into a distant echo so faint it blends seamlessly with silence. If life exists elsewhere, it exists without needing to be known. If it does not, the universe remains whole. Neither possibility carries weight here. The stars feel unimaginably far away now, not because they matter less, but because awareness has turned inward toward heaviness, warmth, and stillness. The body knows what to do. It always has. Breathing is slow and automatic. Muscles are loose. Time has lost its shape. You don't need to stay with any thought. You don't need to follow any image. You don't need to remember anything you've heard. Everything important has already been done. The search expanded you. Then it softened you. Now it releases you. There is no sense of beginning or ending here. Only a gentle fading, like the last star slipping below the horizon, leaving the sky complete in its darkness. Nothing is missing. Nothing is expected. Sleep does not arrive suddenly. It arrives the way night deepens quietly, inevitably, without announcement. You don't need to invite it. You don't need to prepare. You don't need to be ready. Just let go. Now, even the sense of almost is gone. There is no edge anymore, no threshold to cross. Just a gentle drifting, as if awareness itself has decided it no longer needs a shape. The search for life beyond Earth has faded completely into the background of existence, not hidden, not erased, simply no longer relevant to this moment. Like a book closed, not because the story ended, but because rest became more important than reading. Thoughts no longer form sentences. They no longer ask questions. They barely arrive at all. What remains is something simpler than thinking. A quiet presence, a soft weight, a steady rhythm that does not need attention. Breathing happens, the body rests. Time loosens its grip. There is no need to remember stars, galaxies, or distant worlds now. They can exist without being imagined. The universe does not shrink when you stop picturing it. It continues, effortlessly, the way it always has. So do you. If life exists elsewhere, it will still exist when you wake. If it does not, nothing is lost tonight. The question has been safely set down. There is no curiosity left to satisfy, no meaning left to extract, no awareness left to maintain. Sleep is no longer approaching. It is already here, spreading quietly, evenly, like darkness filling a room without sound. You don't need to follow anything further. You don't need to listen closely. You don't need to hold on to this voice. Everything can fade now. Nothing is being held anymore. Not the universe, not the question, not even the idea that there once was a search. The journey that began with curiosity, are we alone, has gently folded in on itself. Not answered, not resolved, simply laid down, the way the mind sets aside toys at the end of a long day. The search for life beyond Earth no longer exists as an effort. It exists as residue, a faint warmth, a softened perspective, a quiet trust that the universe is allowed to be larger than understanding. Thought has slowed beyond words now. There are no arguments forming, no images demanding attention. Awareness drifts freely, untethered from meaning or direction. This is not emptiness. It is rest without explanation. Stars no longer shine here, not because they are gone, but because the mind has closed its eyes. The universe continues on its own, perfectly capable of existing without witnesses. And you no longer need to participate. Breathing happens somewhere far away. The body is heavy, still, safe. Time has loosened so much, it barely matters. If life exists elsewhere, it can wait. If it does not, nothing is missing. Those truths no longer carry emotional weight. They are simply facts that don't need to be processed tonight. The search has done its job. It expanded you when you were awake. It softened you when you grew tired. Now it steps aside completely. There is no tension left to release. No curiosity left unfinished. No thought left hanging. Only the steady, quiet continuation of sleep. Nothing else needs to happen. And now, the story ends, not with an answer, but with rest. The search for life beyond Earth has traveled far tonight. It crossed planets and stars, drifted through silence and possibility, and slowly, gently, came back home to this moment, to this quiet, to you. Nothing was proven. Nothing was ruled out. And that is exactly as it should be. Somewhere in the universe, life may be unfolding under an unfamiliar sky. Or perhaps this small, blue world is carrying the only flame of awareness for now. Either way, the universe remains vast, patient, and unconcerned with urgency. It does not rush you. It does not demand belief. It does not require understanding before sleep. The stars can wait. The questions can wait. Discovery can wait. Tonight is not for solving the universe. Tonight is for letting go. Your breathing is slow now, even effortless. The body has settled into gravity. The mind has released its grip on distance, scale, and meaning. Everything that needed to be thought has already been thought. The rest can come later, tomorrow, or years from now. The universe will still be there when you wake. The search will still exist quietly, patiently, ready to be picked up again whenever curiosity returns. It does not disappear. It simply sleeps when you do. And so, as this final moment fades, there is nothing left to hold on to. No last idea to follow. No final image to keep. Only darkness. Only calm. Only rest. Good night. Sleep well. Wherever you are in the universe, you are allowed to rest.